Welcome to The Just Life, where we expose problems of injustice, engage with people making a difference, and explore what it means to live justly in everyday life. I'm Benjamin Watson, and today I'm joined by Marine Corps veteran, New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor, Johnny Joey Jones, the Triple J. After 2 combat deployments and 8 years of active service, Jones was critically injured in Afghanistan while serving as an explosive ordnance disposal technician, losing both legs above the knee. Since his recovery, he has dedicated his life to advocating for veterans and their families, working with veteran service organizations, advising military transition programs, and contributing to policy reforms on Capitol Hill. A graduate of Georgetown University, Jones is the author of Unbroken Bonds of Battle and Behind the Badge, and currently serves as co-host of Fox News Channel's The Big Weekend Show. Among other things, this conversation will center on what does a just society owe the men and women it sends in harm's way, and what happens when sacrifice is honored with praise, but not with protection. Joey Jones, welcome to The Just Life.
Oh man, that was quite an intro.
Man, you're quite the person.
Oh, I don't know. You can tell a story any way you need to, I guess.
No, don't downplay it, man. It's an honor to have you on The Just Life. It's an honor to have you for this conversation. I've known you, I think we were talking about when I first was aware of you, and it was when you corrected me, it was when I was playing for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
So that would have been like 2016, 17.
Mm-hmm.
You came and spoke to the team. And then we've stayed in contact over the last almost decade now. You connected me with some great service organizations for veterans that are doing just some great work for them. So
I've ran some things by you over the years. I don't have this perspective. You know, give me your thoughts on this.
And I want to talk about that too, because we've had some stuff. A lot has happened.
Yeah,
a lot has happened.
That's the understatement of the decade.
In the last decade, a lot has happened, and whether it be protest, whether it be police citizen altercations, elections.
Yeah,
there's been a lot. You wrote books. You recently reached out to me before you wrote the last book and asked me about some stuff, and I was like, man, I don't like this language that you're using, and this is why.
Yeah.
And the thing I think that most people appreciate about you when it comes to issues of justice, that you engage with people that you don't necessarily agree with, but you're open to hearing, what they have to say.
I think the best way to explain that, well, I'm not trying to explain it, but the best way to give you my perspective on that is the way I see it. Like, we all have a lot of ego about us. Mm-hmm. We've all been through this set of experiences that are so unique to us. It's an exercise in humility to think that we're not all like this exceptional, one-of-a-kind person that it's okay. We don't all have that humility, at least not all the time. So then we do think, hey, all these experiences I've been through created my convictions. Mm. If you're a faithful person, you feel like God has played a hand in it. But just by and large, people in general, it's like, I think sometimes we feel like our convictions are assigned to us, and they're not really, right? Like, you got to walk through life to get them. And I just feel like it'd be really crazy of me to not think that someone who arrived at a different conclusion did so out of error rather than just a set of experiences that drew their convictions in a different way. So for me, it's a checks and balance. Mm. It's to keep me from thinking I know it all. Yeah. You know what I mean?
How did you form those convictions though? What was your, people, a lot of times for me, I would say, especially when it comes to justice, it's rooting in scripture. I gleaned a lot from my parents. I gleaned a lot from personal experiences. For you, talk about first of all, before we even get there, is it Johnny or is it Joey? Which one?
Oh man, you have to go ask my mama, man. I don't know. The whole story, because long form conversation.
Yeah,
I come from a part of Georgia where you're going to get your daddy's name in some way, shape, or form, right? Not just the last name. You're going to get they just recycle the same names over and over. And so my great grandfather was Junie Hercules.
Hercules.
I know, right? And this is what makes me so mad about it.
What, they give you Hercules? You look like Hercules.
I'm telling you, you had some good stuff to pull from, and you ended up with Johnny Joseph. I had Junie Hercules, and then my other great grandfather was Joseph Leitner.
Okay,
that's a cool name.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was then my grandfather was Johnny Edgar. My dad was Joseph Edgar, and my dad, being the kind of hands-off guy he was, he was there when I was born, but he wasn't like cutting the umbilical cord. He looked at the doctor and he's like, that's what I paid you for.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And so when it was time to fill out the paperwork, my grandfather and my dad thought I'd be named Jonathan Edgar. And my mom hated the name Edgar. She knew the only way out was to use both their first names and they'd both be happy. So I ended up Johnny Joseph Jones, which sounds like a cartoon character.
I mean, it has a ring to it, though.
You can't forget it.
It's some alliteration for sure. You can't forget it, and you're also like, I mean, you got to lean into that with Triple J.
It's a personality, whether you want it to be or not. Any alliterated name comes with some personality, right? Of
course.
And so then, of course, to confuse me going into school, they called me Joey. So Johnny Joseph Jones, and then you get Joey from that. So then you got 3 first names. They all have the same letters.
Yeah,
it was a whole experience. And then you join the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps doesn't care what you want to be called. They're going to go with your legal first name. So then I was Johnny for 8 years randomly, and I'd never identified with that name.
Yeah.
And then when I got to a place where I'm in media, because there's a news story written about Sergeant Joey Jones or Staff Sergeant Johnny Jones, I just used Johnny and Joey. So Johnny Joey Jones.
Man, it works. It works. Why did you decide to join the Marine Corps? Was that something that was expected out of your family? Take us back to that point in time where you felt like, I have to do this.
My family is, and like you might understand this, you're from South Carolina and Georgia, so like you get this. Before 9/11, there wasn't this strong sense of national patriotism. You were proud to be from Georgia. The college football rivalry was as much a part of your identity as you're like, I'm an American. It wasn't an anti-American thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But there wasn't this like overwhelming sense of patriotism, especially like up in the mountains in North Georgia. That's almost like a disenfranchised culture. Like keep the lawman away from me.
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing against him, but he doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a moonshiner and a logger, and my dad wheeled in all types of contraband. And
all types.
We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Good people, not necessarily good citizens. That's the truth of it. And so in the 70s, they moved to Dalton from LJ. And for those that don't know, just from one rural part of the state to another, that's a little bit less rural. And so the reason why I point that out is nobody had ever served in the Marine Corps or in the military that wasn't drafted, and half of them went AWOL.
Okay.
And that was during Vietnam. I had one great grandfather that fought in between World War I and World War II, and I think he was he was somewhere in Asia. And when I say fought, served. And then I had great uncles that were close to my dad's age that all got drafted for Vietnam. My grandfather was too young to be drafted to World War II. And my dad was too young to be drafted to Vietnam. So neither one of them served because neither one of them had to.
Yeah.
And so I was the first one in my family to graduate high school, volunteer for the military, or go to college. So I went to the Marine Corps because I grew up in a one-horse town. A carpet mills is all there was there. My dad laid brick and block, and his body was getting to where he couldn't do it anymore, so I couldn't just graduate and go work for him. I didn't want to work in a carpet mill because I'd worked outside my whole life. I had the intelligence, but I didn't have the work ethic, so I didn't have the grades. College was there, but it didn't look attractive. I joined the Marine Corps because I got my heart broke by my high school sweetheart.
It's always a girl.
It's always a girl. And there's a story there, man. And I also wanted to honor all this hard work my parents had done. Everybody starts at a different place. Mm-hmm. So the expectations are above where you start, not necessarily, so that equity and equality, right? Mm-hmm. Like the expectation for me growing up in rural Georgia was much different than somebody growing up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like for me, even in the 2000s, the expectation was you're going to have a high school diploma, not you're going to have a college education. Mm-hmm. You're going to stay out of trouble. You're not going to start a family till you get done with those two things. Like those were real world expectations because those were things people fell short of quite often in my neck of the woods. Hmm. And so the Marine Corps, like going into the military, that was like that. You're my way out of a small town, my way to have a guaranteed paycheck, my way to know I wasn't going to be in trouble. Hmm. Like it was the way I hit all those things post high school and did something more. And when I say more, just different.
I know what you mean. Yeah. You're able to get out, able to leave, able to have, opportunity.
It was opportunity. It really was. It was, and I thank God for it every day. I really do.
So you go into the Marine Corps, you're a bomb tech.
Yeah.
So you are like literally going in Afghanistan, going through minefields, disarming, if that's the proper term.
You're closer than a lot of people get. Okay. You get nerdy about stuff.
You did what, 80 or so devices at least?
So I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years.
Yeah.
And in the Marine Corps is the smallest branch of service by far.
Yeah.
Elite. We try to be. It's that fake humility. Yeah,
exactly.
We're the Marine Corps. You know what I'm saying?
You didn't go through what we went through. Okay.
We run a little bit further. We shoot a little bit further.
Just a little bit,
So the whole thing about the Marine Corps is we have this really cool culture where every Marine a rifleman, which is different than the other services. The other services are bigger. They bring in doctors and lawyers. They bring in pilots. They go through their own version of like basic training. In the Marine Corps, there's 2 places you can do boot camp. Boot camp's very similar at both. And even your drill instructors don't know your job until you get done.
What are those 2 places?
Parris Island, South Carolina. I mean, I'm sure,
Parris Island,
it's like Hilton Head if you took all the good stuff away. And then San Diego, right next to the airport, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rivalry because it's a very different aesthetic, but the experience is very similar.
One has humidity, one doesn't.
One has, like the California one, they climb a mountain. And, South Carolina didn't have a lot of those.
Yeah, you're going through marshes and swamps. And
dude, I'd trade sand fleas for a mountain all day long, man.
Yes.
And so, like they all have, but the thing is in the Marine Corps, even the people instructing you don't know if you're going to be an infantryman or an office clerk.
Okay.
So everyone's trained to the same standard because we're small and we can do that. So in the Marine Corps, you can't be a bomb tech off the street. You have to re-enlist to do it because it costs them money, and it's a job that like you can't be made to do. You have to volunteer to do it. So the Marine Corps wants to know how you've been there, you've done that, this is what you want to do. So when I joined the Marine Corps, I moved around, had different jobs through my first enlistment. Ended up in Iraq behind a machine gun providing security for EOD. And I thought, these guys are the coolest guys on the block. Like, they show up, they don't have any hate in their heart. They're not trying to kill anybody. They're just trying to save the world. Mm-hmm. They're more chill. They're a little bit lax on their grooming, which the Marine Corps does not allow. Like, they can break some of the rules, but also they have a knowledge and a skill set that is so mysterious. Mm. It's a fraternity within a fraternity. And so I re-enlisted for that in 2008, came in 2005, re-enlisted in 2008 after a deployment to Iraq. And then I went back to Afghanistan in 2010 as a bomb tech, as an EOD tech. And that's where we had 78 IEDs that we counted and dozens more that were situational that didn't get counted.
That's a lot. I remember the first time you told me that, and I was asking like what you did in the Marine Corps, and you were telling me what you were doing and the intensity and the precision that it takes and the patience. I got to think.
I mean, I've never been like 4th and 6th in a Super Bowl or anything, but
I'd rather do 4th and 6th a million times.
Not me.
Have to figure out how to not blow myself up.
I don't think the Taliban has as much hate in their heart as a fan that's mad at you. I'll tell you. I'm just saying.
That's true. So you have your injury. It had to be super traumatic. But what did that teach you, like, about, because you enter into this thing in one way, and then you leave in another way. Yeah, you have surgeries, you're in the hospital, your entire life changes. Mm-hmm. What did it teach you about worth and human dignity? As you went through that whole process.
That's awesome. I love you asked that question. I got to set the whole stage though.
Yeah,
right before I deployed. Mm-hmm. Months before, October before I deployed in March, I got a call. Hey, I've got a 3-month-old son and he's yours. Now, this is God working in ways that you don't expect him to. She's from my hometown. This didn't happen in my hometown. It happened on her like kind of fall break from like life. It was Halloween weekend. I was living in Destin, Florida, which is a destination town for the East Coast, Southeast. Mm-hmm. I was living there going to EOD school. It was a one-night stand. It was a 24-hour intimate relationship. Yeah, I knew her. We had a friendship, but there was nothing like that. And she went on about her life. I went on about mine. Got stationed out west. I was in California. She is still living in Georgia. And went through the pregnancy. Didn't tell me about it. And I didn't ask. Didn't think I needed to. And so she called me to tell me that. So that was in October. I had a chance in January, right after Christmas, to get home, do the paperwork, do the blood test, and all that. Mm-hmm. I basically got the results. It was like, we know this kid is yours, but we're not sure who the mom is because it's like 100% match on you. Yeah. Like he's your carbon copy. And so, and I only say that because when I went to Afghanistan, I really was living a life of no responsibility, no love interest, no kids, physically fit, no debt. You get a big bonus when you sign up to be a bomb tech during that time because a lot of them were dying and they were trying to convince people to do it.
Wow.
So no debt or anything. Starting this career in this elite job field, like everything was looking in one direction and in a good way. I created the life I wanted.
Yeah.
And here is like, hey, by the way, you got a kid. So that was the first big change. But I didn't have enough time to for that to set in or to affect my life because I'm about to go to war. So I go to war, and while I'm at war, I reconnect with that high school sweetheart who does God work and had been around my son. You know, I'm from a small town.
Yeah.
It ain't that small. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody.
And so she had been around my son, and that's how we reconnected. And she had just gone through a rough breakup, and I just found out I had a son. And I said, hey, listen, can I have somebody other than my mama to talk to while I'm at war? Because my mama's got a lot of opinions, and I just need somebody to listen. And so we would talk, write letters, phone calls when possible during the deployment. Well, then I go get blown up. So now, like, one of the most important things about my identity is my physical fitness and my ability to do things. And now, literally, that gets cut off at the knees, plus my arms are messed up. I don't know what's going to work again. And so when I came back from my injury, like when they flew me back, I've got this 1-year-old son now. I've got a relationship I didn't see coming. I don't have a body anymore. So it's like everything changed. And the reason why I put that out there is like it probably gave me a cheat code because I never stopped to compare my life to the way it was. Because if I'd have just settled back into the same life but without legs, I would have been fully consumed by what I couldn't do anymore. I can't ride my street bike anymore. I can't ride my dirt bike anymore. I can't be a bomb tech anymore. But instead, I've got this whole set of circumstances. I got to learn how to be a dad. I got to learn how to be a husband. I got to learn how to make a living and provide for this family I just found overnight.
Yeah.
In ways other than the only 2 ways I know, which are with my hands or like in the Marine Corps. And so it was such a hard reset. It's kind of like I went to sleep and woke up in a different life. And with that came a really beautiful way to not have resentment. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It almost made you not move on at all. I'm not saying that, but
a whole new set of goals.
It made you look outside of yourself. Like I have to be there for somebody else. It gave you a different priority. It introduced responsibility to you in a different way.
I'm telling you, man, I'd say this all the time. Motivation is like a 5-hour energy at the convenience store.
Yeah.
But responsibility never goes away, man. That's like a good night's sleep. That keeps you motivated all day.
Are there other veterans who have not necessarily gone through exactly the same thing, but do you see that kind of common thread where a soldier gets injured or gets hurt and stuff changes for them? And I know some of them have to struggle with that transition tremendously.
Yeah, I see the opposite.
About that. Yeah,
I know a lot of guys and some gals that are like me. There are members of Congress that I recovered with in the hospital that have reached the penultimate. When it comes to responsibility, that's up towards the top, man. You represent hundreds of thousands of people. I've got peers that are in movies. I've got peers that are, created tens of millions of dollar businesses. And I got buddies that I check in with every week just so I know they don't give up.
Yeah.
And I've got buddies that I've put in the ground 10 years after war. And what's the differentiator, man? I've been searching for that my whole life. I think conditioning prior to. Like for me, I had a good childhood, but there was trauma there.
Yeah.
Trauma is one of those things. It's like, is it good or is it bad? It's like, what's the outcome?
Yeah.
It's how you build your armor. Like a tree that's never been through a storm doesn't have strong roots. So trauma is necessary. The outcome of trauma to me feels so random because you can go through traumatic experiences and you carry it with you in a way that you can't get rid of and it hurts you. Or you can go through traumatic experiences young and it builds you strong. And so for me, I was just lucky enough that if it's Occam's razor or whatever, a Plinko game, whatever, like the ball just fell on the right side for me in a lot of ways.
Well, what do people who haven't served, misunderstand about those who have?
Oh, man, 1,000,001 things. Number one, we're not a monolith. Like we have our own identities and political views and backgrounds. Like the coolest thing about the military is it puts you around all the people that you never thought you'd be around. And then it puts you through something that sucks so bad that you come out on the other side loving each other anyway. Like that's one thing that maybe not misunderstand, but one thing people can learn or get perspective on is that going through something ridiculously difficult with somebody connects you to them in a way that even blood can't. It really does. It makes you family. And, you know, like I was watching a video yesterday of this African-American guy that went through Vietnam with this guy. I don't think he called him Joe. That was like from Georgia. And that's all he says. A white guy named Joe from Georgia. And this was in the 60s. So,
named Joey.
Yeah, I know, right? So like, unless Joe was from the middle of Atlanta and like chances are he was a good old boy probably. And he was talking about how Joe was his best friend. And this was such an amazing thing. I don't know anything about either one of them. Like I needed to keep them mysterious because it was so impactful. I felt like more facts would ruin it.
Would mess it up.
But he told the whole story of Joe dying. And that was traumatic. Joe got blown up on a patrol with him. But at the end, what just stuck with me so hard is he goes, I'm never going to forget about Joe. He goes, his wife and his kids might forget about him, but I'll never forget Joe. And like to think about a bond that strong from people that I can only presume came from different places, like just different, just different places in life. Like, man, like that's how beautiful trauma can be.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
And often, tell me how you feel about this, because people say this sometimes, and I kind of cringe when we say it. There are some parallels with, what you've described in the military and sports.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely some parallels, but we aren't going to war. We aren't dying. We aren't sacrificing in that way in athletics. Although there is this feeling of people coming from different places, different backgrounds. You go through something that sucks, training camp.
Mm-hmm.
You get injured. You go through a season. You emerge on the other side. And you have friends with guys who vote different than you. They're from different sides of the tracks, like totally different. People of faith, people not of faith. But you love each other because you know that person. When people say that, does it ever rub you like the wrong way, or
not
do you kind of understand?
No, because I want you guys to know. Listen, the worst part about veterans in this day and age, like I always take it back to World War II and Vietnam, which that's the three major wars that we can in our age group, we learned about World War II in school. Mm-hmm. We learned about Vietnam from our parents, and we lived through the War on Terror. Yeah. That's the three wars that define us when we think about this. And World War II, that was a war fought by reservists because we didn't have a standing army. People don't realize that, especially people our age, not like we do today. In Vietnam, very much the same way. Like most people that went to Vietnam were drafted, and they were drafted with 50 people from the same area. They went to boot camp together. They went into the unit together. They went to war together.
And that's part of the reason why the animus sometimes with Vietnam, the protests,
Absolutely.
Because of the draft.
Yeah. And so then in our war, like everything was different. We built this huge standing army after Vietnam. We, as a country, we went through this traumatic experience together, right? 2001. And so for a time, we were galvanized in a way that maybe was good in some ways. Then we send everybody off to war, and it doesn't matter about how just the war is. What matters is they're going to fight to avenge us, and it's hard not to be on board with that, no matter what your politics are. They come back to a hero's welcome. We don't even win the war. You come back to a hero's welcome. And so I want my veterans to understand that we're the first generation that thought of ourselves as a subgroup of Americans like this, like you can't understand me.
Yeah.
Because society did so badly post-Vietnam that it tried to rewrite itself post-war on terror. So it's, what can we do for our veterans? We love our veterans. We're patriotic. It's like when you're bad, I don't know the best analogy, but basically it's like, hey, the pendulum swings both ways. It was all the way over here, and it has no choice but to swing too far that way rather than reaching the middle. Yeah. So it's almost like this fake patriotism, and you addressed that in the intro to this podcast. So I need veterans to remember we're still just people. We're still civilians with a unique experience. And the only way to do that is connect ourselves with civilians. Like for a long time, I couldn't have close friends that weren't veterans. Like I wouldn't allow.
Because you felt like, did you feel like you kind of couldn't relate? Like there was this piece of you that, because, I've experienced that too as an athlete where it's like
100%. How could you ever know?
There's a huge part of you that you don't understand. It's not your fault, but like when you get around other veterans or you get around other athletes, there's some things that are just unsaid and you just know each other.
So when I meet guys like you, not just like football players, but guys that are cerebral, guys that like want to see more than one layer deep in the onion. And you've been through something like training camp and just all the things. It's like every year you've got to go earn it again. Yeah. Right. And like this guy could take your job, but if he doesn't, he's your brother. Yeah. So like these dynamics that don't make any sense, right? And we think there's no way anyone else could ever understand that. Like ultimate exercise in humility is be like, oh, that's basically the same experience I had, just in a different environment, just for a different purpose. So my point in pointing that out is like, I love it when football players use the war analogy because then now we can start talking. Now we got something in common. Yeah. You're not ever going to diminish my service doing that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like my service stands on its own business, right? Like I got that shadow box over there. If you want to talk about it, we can. That's not important. What's important is what I learned from it, who I am today because of it. And we do have that in common. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if I was fighting for this country, you were fighting for everybody that loves that team. Those are people you don't know, people you don't agree with, people that in a different setting you might argue with or hate, but that brought you together, like some colors or a name. And it's like in those ways, the similarities are too obvious to ignore.
Yeah. Well, one thing you said is that sometimes veterans feel like they are in a separate category, but they need to remember that they're citizens. Yeah. And I think also on the other side of that is American citizens need to remember that veterans are also citizens. 100%. And so we need to honor and support, yes, but are you saying that there should kind of be this, because this is kind of the whole reason when we talk about the just life is that you're treating everybody with this certain amount of fairness and honor that extends to them regardless of their circumstances, but also understands their circumstances as being unique while not simply categorizing them as something different. And so there needs to be this kind of like, usual normal flow of, yes, Joey's a veteran. Yes, he has specific needs maybe because of things he's been through, but he's one of us. So how do you like when it comes to, supporting the troops and actually supporting people, like how do we blend that without making it this big thing that's outside of, like you said, the normal citizenship of America?
The most important thing is to remind veterans first, and society needs this reminder, that life, hardship, expectations, responsibility doesn't stop because you retired from the military or because you went to war. Mm-hmm. Like we have this like culture of career veterans in our country, and it's because, but it's so bad with Vietnam, the sales pitch to get people to volunteer to come back in is like, oh, we'll take care of you forever. You'll have, now if you get a 30% disability rating, you've got medical care and maybe a retirement check for the rest of your life. You did 8 years.
I mean, is that a bad thing?
Well, let me ask you a question. If you take that and you say, you know what, I can live off that, and you sit on your couch and smoke pot or fish every day and live the retired life. I'm not saying those are bad things. I'm saying that's as much as you invest.
Smoking pot every day might be a bad thing.
Like I don't do it, but I'm not here to judge either.
I am.
You know what I mean?
I don't know if it'd be productive.
Well, 100. That's my point. Is like, what do you do? How are you contributing? Because I think that, and maybe it's just a personal thing, but I think it's a human thing. Like being invested in something, serving and sacrificing is incredibly selfish. Because the first thing it does is make you feel good. Okay. I can volunteer for charity and never know how that person that I helped feels, but it made me feel good. And that's not a bad thing. Yeah. So like, if you're not getting any of that, you're really like, you're not living the full experience of life. So if I tell you, hey, you went to war for me, so you don't need to work anymore. Here's a retirement check. Here's full medical benefits. You don't need, like, I should take care of you. Well, I'm not really taking care of you. I'm putting you in a place to where I'm taking away a motivator. I'm taking away something from you. Just like this idea, like, who Rick Neuheisel is. Mm-hmm. I listen to his radio show football, college football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has this saying, I love it. He goes, fair is where you pin a blue ribbon on a pig. Because fair, even the thing about fair is I can want fair, and I do, but I can't need it. Because as long as I need fair, I've got an excuse. I've got a way out. I've got a cop out. Now that's not fair.
I think that goes to mindset, right?
There's a difference between like the written principle. Like I can believe in fairness, but I can't mandate it in order to move.
Well, I think there's a balance.
I mean?
I think there's a balance there because, I feel like, if veterans who served 8 years, 10 years, especially those who have lost limbs, why not have healthcare for them for the remainder of their life? But I understand what you're saying about it.
That's fine.
It being an issue where perhaps it demotivates somebody.
It's not
from
about.
work. So how do you have that balance? Because people want to honor it.
Yeah.
Veterans.
What's the best way to honor my service? Expect something from me. Expect me to continue to be relevant and contribute. I'm not saying take veterans' benefits away.
Yeah.
I'm saying change the narrative.
Okay.
Quit saying I should do for you and say, man, you got a lot to give. Let's do, like, you are an asset. Come be a part of my church. Come be a part of my community. Come be a part of my workforce. Come be a part of my government.
Is that where you think America has fallen short?
Yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like parents that spoil their kids. They mean well.
Mm-hmm.
They're good people. But the outcome could be very dangerous. Because if you're only spoiling your kids, you're not teaching them what they need. You're not creating humility. There's a lot of negative outcomes that come from it. That's what's happened. Society has been so focused on correcting its wrong, from spitting on people that didn't want to go to that war to begin with, to now it's like, let me just hold you in my arms and make life easy for you. No. Let me show you respect by knowing how important you are. Mm-hmm. Let me take care of you by making sure you can take care of yourself. Like, rather than telling me you're 100% disabled, say, hey, that service affected you forever. You sacrificed something of yourself in perpetuity for this country. I'm going to make sure that doesn't cost you money as you embark on your next career.
Okay.
See the difference?
Yeah.
It might be the exact same check that comes in the mail. It's how it's given and the expectation that comes with it.
Well, what are some ways we do that practically as individuals, as a government, as institutions? What are some ways we actually can live that out? Because I think you bring up a great point. I mean, it is the narrative, of course, but it is this feeling of you want to care for people. The pendulum swings. You see what they've gone through. You want veterans to know that we honor you and we appreciate. For whatever reason you decided to enlist.
It might have been,
right? Might have been an opportunity for you coming out of LJ. It might have been somebody whose parents were in the military. Whatever the reason why.
Some people joined to stay out of jail. Some people joined to get away from trouble. Like, I've seen every story.
What's the practical way to do exactly what you're?
I think it's like more of an American cultural thing. Like,
okay,
veterans are nothing but a subset of American society. Yeah. So all the problems that exist in American society, all the differences and opinions and mentalities and backgrounds and experiences that exist in the military. What makes the military special is it's a meritocracy and it's a dictatorship.
All at the same time.
Hey, listen, I'm sorry life was tough. Get your ass in line.
Yeah.
Get the uniform on. It's easier for that guy next to you because he can naturally run faster and he doesn't have that injury you have. We're holding both of you to the same standard. You're going to work a little bit harder for it. You can resent that and you can go have it changed where everyone with the injury you have or the slow run pace you have meets a little bit lower standard. Or, hear me out, you can meet the same standard as that guy and chances are you're going to be better at it than him because you're going to earn it harder and you're going to appreciate it more and you're probably going to excel past him. And I say that as a guy with no legs that has never stopped working. So I'm not asking anyone to reach the standard I wasn't willing to reach myself first. Now, that doesn't mean in society, everybody's expected to reach the same level. I mean, the truth is we're all of different IQ. We're all of different physical ability. But so it's not where you go, it's how far you go. Mm-hmm. If you start down here and right here, and this guy goes that far and this person goes that far, or right there level with them, now they've reached equality, but this person did a lot more work and traveled further.
Yeah.
They're going to get more out of that. So it's less about asking everyone to meet a standard. It's about asking everyone to have a standard.
Have a standard and to be productive.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not about, I want to make sure I word this correctly so it sounds right. I was raised in a 1966 single wide. My dad was an alcoholic, and my mom was an addict, and I just got lucky enough that her last addiction was Jesus Christ. And so what do you call that? You call it holy roller. You know what I'm talking about.
I call her saved.
Exactly. She's going to make it to heaven before I do.
Yeah. That's all I call her.
It's a good thing, but there's the negative side of it where we're always bouncing from one church to another, and because she can't, there's an insecurity involved in her faith during my childhood, not now, but during my childhood, that it was something she could occupy her addiction with until she truly found a security in it. The reason why I say that is it was chaotic. I mean, dad's coming home at midnight raising Cain, and mom's wailing, praying, and it's like, what in the world? Is this a war zone? What's happening? I can look at it comically. They're both good people, but their vices and faults in their lives were traumatic. I've seen my dad throw the refrigerator out the back door because my mom didn't make it to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I've also seen him work his hands to the bone to take care of us. And I've seen the man cry and give his life to God at the age of 50. And so the point is, we have to acknowledge that everybody in this country comes from something other than a Leave It to Beaver house.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge that everyone's path to wherever they are deserves more credit than it gets. But we can't take that acknowledgement and say, you can stop there. I'm sorry that you had that, and let me take care of you in a way you don't have to keep pushing harder.
Yeah. I think so much of what we hear, social media, cable TV, our conversations is either or.
And it's on the left and the right. This is not 100%. One side or the other.
It's this the narrative of I want to take care of you. You get everything for free, and then it's to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Your past doesn't matter at all. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is that it's somewhere in between. We can serve people and assist people while still expecting from them. And most people in there want to work. They want to be productive. And they also understand that as a citizen of this country, if things have happened to them, then they deserve redress for that. The disability piece, so more than 1 in 4 U.S. adults have a disability of some sort, according to the CDC. Whether it be cognition, mobility, hearing, vision, taking care of yourself, whatever it is. Full disclosure, I asked you to come on this podcast, and we record this podcast on the 3rd floor of my house.
Yeah.
In a room that just happened to be finished, and I didn't know what we were going to do with it. We decided to do a podcast here. And as soon as I asked you, I was like, oh no, I don't know how to address this. I don't know how to talk to this. I'm like, do I talk to his publicist? Do I tell him, I just want to let you know that there's 3 flights of stairs to come up here, but I don't want to insult you by saying you can't do it. But I also want to be fair to letting you know what you're about to walk into, because as you said before, you don't have legs.
This is where I'm the ultimate hypocrite. I am such a hypocrite on this.
But you also walked up them stairs.
This is the truth. It took me a decade to figure this out about myself.
Uh-huh.
It's all about my mindset going into it.
Uh-huh.
Now, because you're a friend and I'm honored that you invited me on this podcast, that colors my perspective either way. But say I was indifferent about doing this in general. I was told by my employer I need to go do this.
Uh-huh.
If I show up and it's like, hey, by the way, you got to walk up these stairs, I'm pissed off.
I would be too.
I'm like, how dare you not take into consideration? Same people, completely indifferent, same situation. They called me the day before. Hey, listen, if there's another way, I'm so sorry, this is what's going on. Just that heads up changes my whole perspective on having to walk those stairs. Now, I'm going to walk those stairs and one, poke at you about it. And two, it's a chance for me to show you, hey, I'm not so crippled I can't walk up a set of stairs. Now I'm proud to walk up those stairs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about in society. It's all about the perspective. It's not, I don't want to take benefits away from people. I don't want to take help away from people, but I want to give it in this way that makes people feel like they're being invested in, not pacified. Whether it's veterans, poor people, whatever it is. Because I those are the two classes I know well.
You know all those classes. So invested in, not pacified. And so even thinking about the stairs, how does America truly treat people with disabilities?
If I go
when
to
it comes
Europe,
to systems and even practical things, where are some of the things where you're like, when it comes to even disability, that you're like, man, America could do better?
It's tough for me because here's the thing, right? This is going to sound so right wing, I guess. Because
you are, but it's okay.
I always try to think at a higher level.
Yeah,
I always say, okay, those political views and those things, they're down here at the if I don't think hard on it and just give you a reaction, that's where I lean. Yeah. So what's the higher level where I think through it? I see both sides. I try to come to a conclusion that I can back up, that I can justify. Right. This is just who I am. What can we do better? The VA just changed the regulation to where rather than giving you your disability rating based on the totality of your injuries, the rating is now based on the effect of your injuries with rehabilitation, medication, and treatment.
Okay.
So if you used to get 60% disability because you have a chronic sprained ankle, well, you might get 30% now because they're in a clinic in this country that can't put a brace on that ankle, or they're in. So
it's being reduced because of rehabilitation.
So the point isn't to take something away from you; it's to remind you that there's still a lot of life left to live, and that's not a terminal diagnosis.
Yeah.
So anybody that already has it keeps it. They're not going back and taking things away from people. But moving forward, if you enlist, you're enlisting with the knowledge that you may gain an injury that is limiting, but not terminal, not debilitating. I think that's a good thing. So what can we do in this country for people with disabilities? Well, one, don't take anything away from them. But two, rather than trying to make them feel okay about it, show them they still have a lot left to give. They still have relevance. I'm going back into the Marine Corps as a reservist, brother.
I know, you told me
I don't have legs. That doesn't make any sense at all. Now, it helps to know, folks, full disclosure.
Are you passing these physicals, bro?
So I'm going tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow to what they call METS, which is the hospital. It's the medical office where they evaluate you for your physical fitness to serve.
I kind of want to go with you.
This poor doctor.
I kind of really want to hear what the doctor has to say.
This doctor's going to be like, am I on punked? What is happening right now? How did this happen? He's going to look at me like I've got 3 eyeballs when in fact, I just don't have any legs. You know what I mean? But the thing is the military is kind of leading the way here, for all of the politics and all the things that people argue over. I do know the guy in charge. He's a buddy of mine I used to work with. Yeah. And I had this conversation with him before he took the job. And it's that we have a class of warriors in this country that have gone to war and come back, and they are the statesmen of our military because they know, hey, bro, we need to think twice before we get in this war because that's a heavy cost, not just to the people that fight it, but the people that love them.
Yeah.
And so what do they still have to give? And so if I can do this, anybody can do it. It's not just because I'm Joey Jones that knows a guy.
Yeah.
This is a process the Marine Corps is creating for other people like me to continue to serve. And I think that's the right way about it because I've got to give up. If I'm a reservist, I serve 2 days a month, 2 weeks a year. So a total of 36 days. 36 days of my retirement, I'm giving back to my country in order to serve. I'm paying to go serve.
And there'll be certain things that you'll be asked to do and not asked to do because of ability.
They won't ask me to charge the front line.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not going to be out there in my little go-go gadget wheelchair.
But the point is, before this, was there not a place for somebody who had a double amputee to be in the reserves?
After 2001, if you were catastrophically injured, meaning if you were injured in a way that you wouldn't be physically fit to serve, in combat, you would be allowed to stay for a full 20-year career, and they'd find a place for you in garrison.
Okay.
Before that, there wasn't. You're medically retired. We love you. We're going to take care of you, but you can't charge the front line, so you can't be in the service. It's 2026. The world's different now. We fight our wars with drones even. So there's a lot of ways to serve that doesn't involve you being in the front line. Why not give these men and women that opportunity? I think it's a great way to acknowledge the service and sacrifice, but also keep that expectation of service. Like, I should want to serve. I make good money now. I don't have to live on my retirement. Why not give up a little bit of that to serve my country? Like, I'm paying the government to let me serve.
I think, do you think that, it would draw, in the beginning of our conversation, we talked about some of the men, the veterans and women who were struggling, who had difficulty with, that you're checking on because you just want to make sure that they're alive and they didn't do something drastic. Do you think it would help them to bring them back in the fold and give them a purpose?
I think
in that respect. Yeah. I mean, I see that. I see that in football.
Absolutely.
I mean, you retire for several years and you get disconnected from the guys that you were with, and you kind of have that malaise of what's my purpose. I was just at the Super Bowl a few months ago, and it was great just to see everybody because you felt like you were kind of back in that fold. I feel like that could be a way from a morale standpoint for some veterans.
100%. And you know what? Most of the people watching and listening didn't go to war or play football, right? Put this in a regular human being, like a regular experience, right? Somebody that's injured on the job, breaks their back, they're in a wheelchair. They were a lineman, right? When I say lineman, like working on telephone poles. It's a very physical job. They still have a decade, 2 decades of experience that's worth something. So is there a place for them in the training school? Is there a place for them in HR? Is there a place for them in compliance? Is there a place for them in planning? Like, that's what I mean. I don't mean taking anything away from anybody. I mean to remind people that you don't get to give up. And that's a good thing. We don't get to give up. We don't get to give up on our responsibilities. We don't get to give up our place in our community. We just, we live in a time now to where the pendulum has to swing both ways. It used to be over here to where, if you were born with Down syndrome, you were cursed and put you in a home. And over the years now, there are people with Down syndrome that have bona fide jobs that start businesses that are like, we overlooked probably some of the most pure hearts in the world because of it. So then you add disability in that equation, somebody that's been through traumatic experience and they have PTSD. Like, that's one that like everybody has a different opinion on, And it's like, there's a whole nother conversation over what that means, but the trauma you've been through is worth something if you can get healthy with it.
Yeah.
And we can bring that to a group of people and teach people with it, or you can be the guy that says, hey, you're on the ground floor, I'm on the 3rd floor, I can see something coming. Let's stop for a minute and talk about this.
Yeah, I love that. I want to pivot just a little bit to some of your books and Behind the Badge. I was reading part of that book, and if you're not familiar with Behind the Badge, you wrote 2 great books. All the people that you interviewed, most of them personally, you've had experience with, whether they be veterans, whether they be first responders like firemen, policemen, border control agents, those sorts of things. And Behind the Badge, you talk about the role of firefighters and police. And you describe a situation in your intro and you correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the book kind of comes on the heels of a lot of conversation about policing in America, protests that we've seen. You even talk about Colin and him and Nate Boyer, kneeling for the national anthem, or for
and
police,
all these
for police brutality.
And all these are motivations for the book. Like, I don't want people to think, okay, this is
the book is a response in some ways to some of those things.
Yeah, it's not to tell you what to think.
Yeah, it's
to let them speak.
Yeah.
And then add that to, if you're out there protesting police brutality, you've got 1,000,001 experiences and friends' experiences that are motivating that. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to tell you 99% of cops are great and it's the 1% that are bad, so you shouldn't protest. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to ask you to read these stories and add that to your toolbox. Add that to your perspective. If I'm going to go on Fox News and advocate for a conservative point of view, the first thing I'm going to do is read and understand the liberal point of view on the same topic. It's kind of like, there's more than one way to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not about who's right or wrong.
And the thing is, a lot of folks have these folks in their families. So I love the stories.
Yeah.
I loved hearing the stories about,
and most of them,
about some of the trauma. Even the police officer you talked about, and him seeing for the first time, someone being murdered. I think it was a kid, and how traumatic it was.
That very first story.
Well, how traumatic it was. You talk about a situation when really talking about what police go through when they pull somebody over, right? And I just want to read this little part of the book. You describe, a young man who has pants sagging, speaking with a certain slang, demonstrating blatant disrespect for authority. Do those things make him a criminal? No, not at all. But then you talk about, I'm not suggesting we don't have the freedom in this country to dress and speak however we want. I vehemently defend that freedom. As you have the scars to show that you've defended that freedom. But to throw a blanket over what has been proven to be an involuntary human conditioning of if this, then that, and assign hate and racism as motives is to remove the humanity of police officers altogether. What you're talking about is the fact that if a police officer sees a group of young men that look a certain way, their own human nature might be to suspect something, much like when you were driving around with a mullet.
I use this in the book too.
In the book, you talk about, you say much like when you were driving around in a pickup with Hank Williams blaring out of the radio late, then you might think that you're a drunk driver. And I think you bring up a great point there about how humans have certain inherent biases because of our experiences. Mm-hmm. You're a police officer, and you point out the fact that media pushes certain narratives.
Exactly.
Music pushes certain narratives. And so you expect certain things. The problem I have with the if this, then that we have to talk about is profiling. And whether you're a kid that has his pants sagging or you're a kid that's driving down the street blaring, country music, and an officer thinks that you perhaps are drunk driving, where's the line between giving officers the grace to say they're human beings? Look, if they pulled over 10 guys that were blaring the music and they were drunk and they see the 11th Joey driving down, they might think he's drunk as well. I understand why they said that, while also saying there's due process. He doesn't have probable cause. There are constitutional rights that he's interfering with when he pulls you over or when he pulls over the guy that has his pants sagging. Mm-hmm. Where's the line there? How do we have that conversation? Because profiling is not only unconstitutional, it's dangerous.
Well, you can build robots and have them be police officers.
That's where we are right now.
I don't mind that. That's fine with me.
Which is another conversation, because I just heard about that a couple of days ago, which is another conversation because even robots have to be programmed in some way.
There's no way out of it, man. There's no way out of it.
Thing. So,
listen, my point of writing
because a lot of the protests or the angst, especially for somebody like myself,
sure,
is okay. Where's the constitutionality in all this? While also understanding that, everybody's not seeking you out because you look this way, but because of their experiences with people like you that look this way.
I think part of the problem is we only get one perspective that is activated to change. Mm-hmm. All the rich people that drive Mercedes aren't out protesting because they're going to get pulled over because they know they'll pay the ticket. But that happens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to pull over that old lady driving a Mercedes because she's not going to run from me, and she's going to pay her ticket.
She's not going to run from me.
So I'm going to let these two knuckleheads in Chargers and lifted trucks go, and I'm going to pull over the lady in the Mercedes. All three of them are speeding. All three of them broke the law. I'll get to pick the one I pull over. Mm. Like, they're not out protesting that. They don't need to. They're rich. They can pay the ticket. Uh-huh. They're not thinking twice about it. My point is, you're not ever going to get rid of bias. Never. So have a conversation about what the bias is. Is it hate, racism? Is it ignorance? Is it conditioning? Because it's root causes, right? I mean, we had a vice president that talked about that with immigration. So that's something that both sides of the aisle can listen to.
Yeah.
So if we go to root causes and understand it, then you condition away from it. But if you just treat somebody like they're hateful and racist, they're probably just going to turn into a hateful, racist person. My mama used to accuse me of smoking pot every single day. I never did. It finally got to the point that in my senior year, I'm like, well, if I'm going to be in trouble for it, I want to see what this is all about. I don't want that situation. I don't want people drawing lines in the sand. I want people reaching across and like, hey, let's go for a walk and have a talk. I didn't write that to excuse it. I wrote it to offer a perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe that guy that is profiling you isn't doing it because he hates you. And if you can see him that way empathetically, then you can righteously ask him to see you in a different way.
And I believe that. I don't.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes 100%.
It's kind of
like you didn't.
I'm asking a group of people who feel like, and when I say a group of people, maybe it's young black men, I don't know, who feel like they've already had to give more grace than they should have. And I'm basically asking them to give more. But I'm offering a consequence to it. I'm offering an exchange. Because it's not, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't young black men that read this book. It was police officers of all stripes. They had to read this book and think about it too.
I'm not a young black man. I'm 45. So I was about to say I read the book, but
no, I'm glad you did. I mean, like by and large.
But I'm not young.
By and large,
so.
You are young. Listen, God, I hope you're young because I think you're a little bit older than me. But my point is, like, we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we started in 2020, but even before that, Michael Brown, right? That would have been the first in my lifetime. We go all the way back to,
we go to Emmett Till.
It's not Rodney King. It's the L.A.
Rodney King.
Rodney King. We can go all the way back, and then you can go all the way back to Emmett Till.
Yeah.
You go all, we can keep going back, but just in my lifetime, in recent events, where the narrative is today, what people invoke, probably Ferguson. You go back to about there, I get maybe the flavor and brand of everything today. Like that's when this version of it came to be. Does that make sense?
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. So like my point is like, I understand where the frustration is. I understand where the energy is. I understand where the rejection is. But like what's come from the other side as part of this conversation? Or are they doing anything but like batting down the hatches? Well, that doesn't help anything.
Yeah. I think I think what you presented was a very poignant summary of how a lot of people feel and how a lot of people would present it. I agree with you as far as, and I've written about this, as far as the grace that needs to be given. Well, not even just the grace, maybe that's the wrong term, but just the understanding that, I don't know if a police officer is biased because of my ethnicity or, the construct that we call race. That's not even like a real thing. Of that,
that's a Charlie Kirk sounding thing there for a minute.
No, don't put me in that book. That's a biblical sounding thing. Ain't got nothing to do with Charlie.
I know. He's the first person I heard say that.
Well, Darwin's the one who really put us in this situation. Race is Darwinian.
Yeah.
As far as we think about like black, white, that's not.
You're not the same race as your kids. So, you know what I mean? It's like
for most of human history, we didn't look at race that way until Darwin, and now in our Western thinking,
we needed a way to group people.
Exactly, especially in the last, I guess, 500, 600 years.
That's exactly
anyway,
right.
My point in this is that it's an issue of why do those biases exist, even if they're not racially motivated, but the outcomes impact Black communities.
Let me be explicit.
And the constitutionality. And so I agree with you when it comes to,
and that's a very conservative mentality.
When it comes to,
my
I don't
point
look at
is,
it conservatively.
I'm only using these words like Charlie Kirk conservatives say, nobody gets to own the idea of my constitutionality, my sovereignty.
Yeah.
Like every political party should have an appreciation for that. And like we take these things that are omnipresent in American life and we say, oh, that belongs to this group and that belongs to that group. The point of this isn't to say, hey, Black people, just put up with it. The point is 100% it's not acceptable. But how do we change it if acknowledging it makes this group defensive and this group pissed off? That's the point of pointing it out, is to say, listen, if he needs to remember that if 10 out of 11 people that look and act and talk a certain way are actually committing a crime, but because of the one not committing the crime, he can't treat them all the same way, or he can't treat them all based on how they look and act, then let's also remember that if 10 cops are doing the right thing for the right reasons and one isn't, let's not treat the other 10 like they're wrong. Even if they are profiling and not realizing it, let's have a conversation with them about it. Let's find a way to change that. I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
The answer is, you know what I'm saying?
It's hard because
I'm trying to be real about it.
I mean, Isabel Wilkerson talks about this in her book Cast, and she talks about
the answer is a long runway.
Well, she talks about the fact that it's not necessarily, an active, I'm going after these people because they look like this, but because of our general conditioning, all of us.
So how do you?
It's exactly right. All of us, and so it's not an individual thing; it's more institutional, and it's more just how we operate. And so I don't bring it up to have a solution.
Man, I wish we did though.
I know. I'm more saying, even in your position, because this is a justice conversation. It's got to be difficult for you sometimes to provide that third, way of thinking that's people would say is in the middle, but I just think it's truthful when you're in a polarizing,
the number one
context.
compliment I get every day I'm on Fox News.
Yeah.
Is just like, man, that was common sense.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying, thanks for bringing some common sense to that conversation. I'm no scholar. I read a lot. Doesn't mean I learn anything from it. I'm certainly not a philosopher because everything has been thought already,
Mm-hmm.
But there aren't a lot of people on television in politics that not just came from small town Georgia, but decided to make that their life and bring that to New York rather than go to New York and tell people about what they used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so there aren't a lot of people that talk like me, that have this accent. There aren't a lot of people that got blown halfway apart in war and go get to put a suit on and interview presidents. And so if I can be their voice rather than tell them what to think, and that's two different things, that's what I'm trying to do. And it's like, I'll tell you, those people in Northwest Georgia, they're on a team. They're on the red team because that's what they think they should be. But they're arguing right now over immigration. They're arguing over a government's role in industry. They're finding a lot of things that they don't exactly side with the right on right now, that they're trying to make sure. I mean, the president is, I don't want to timestamp this, but the president is there today.
Yeah.
Because he knows that part of the country can be vulnerable for his party. Because you're talking second, third generation Americans whose parents came here illegally to work in the carpet mills. You're talking about industries that were coddled by the government because they were polluting the water and nobody knew it. And on the right, what's the position on the right? EPA's got too much power.
Yeah.
Invest in industry and that'll trickle down. So there's a lot of issues that are nuanced to that part of the country, no matter how red and conservative they are, that the other side of the aisle may be saying the right thing a lot more than the side they're voting for. And it's like, you know what, man, that's not unique. That's everyday life. That's who we actually are as Americans. I get a chance to go on TV and just be that guy and just talk about those things. This is one of those issues that I literally read Nate Boyer's op-ed, which was an open letter to Colin Kaepernick, and thought, man, that's who I am. That's where I am on this. I got buddies I went to war with that I saw give their lives for brown people. Like that's a tagline, because when you go to Afghanistan and fight, I'm not fighting for America. I'm fighting for the people in Afghanistan in that village to not have to live under Taliban rule. That's as much of an effect as I'll ever have. So I've seen these guys give their lives for these people that don't speak their language. I've seen them pick up their kids that got, fragged from a bomb and love on them and bring them back and take care of them, and then go to Indiana and become a state trooper. And it's like, I want their voice to be heard because I know the reason why they're doing it. And if you can't find a place where you can appreciate the sacrifice somebody's making, whether it's in military or fire, and I started off with 2 firemen because I think that's the real unsung hero.
They're the ones that I think people don't know the most about.
They see the worst.
We're going to wrap, but they're the ones that get there first all the time. A lot of times they'll get there before anybody else.
What sucks about firemen is they don't have any authority. So the worst part about policing is they have authority. That's where the whole contentious part comes from, right?
Yeah, and they have lethal authority.
They have authority. They have lethal authority, and we just have to believe they're using it correctly.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And half the time, we're not educated on what correctly is.
Yeah,
There's a lot of problems that need to be fixed. Like you talk about your constitutional rights. How many Americans know what those are in an exchange with a police officer? How many police officers know what those are? Right?
Yeah.
The thing about policing in this country is that it's held at the most local level. Mm-hmm. Your local municipality trains its police officers. In the military, if I'm a Marine, it doesn't matter if I'm stationed in the smallest base in the Marine Corps or the biggest. I was trained the same way, held to the same standard. That's one problem we have that I don't know how to fix, but we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But on fire, what is crazy about our firemen is 8% of what they do involves a fire. More than 70, upwards of 90, depending on where they are medical emergencies. And they see the worst of what we do to ourselves and how we treat each other. They have no authority to correct it. They don't get to arrest anybody. They got to go in there and take care of whoever's injured, no matter what. So if the guy that was beating his wife and got shot by her, because that's one of the stories in there, they got to go save both their lives.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it's like how you do that and not just really quit caring at all was the point of the book.
Yeah.
How do you keep your humanity and see this? And that was the point of writing the book is if people can read that and see that, then their next interaction with any of these people probably is different because now they have a perspective. Yeah. Doesn't mean the bad actors get to do bad things. That's not the argument at all.
Of course. Well, as we wrap up, when you think about the future of this country, you're fully vested in this country, as we all are. What role does justice play in securing that future? You can take that wherever you want to go.
It's this, like a dollar bill, it's a piece of paper, right? What's it worth? Worth whatever that piece of paper is worth. But if we all believe in it, it's worth at least $1. And the more we believe in it, I'm not an economics professor here, so I'm not Thomas Sowell or anybody. The more we believe in it, actually, the more it's worth. Because public trust goes to our GDP, goes to our credit. Like that public trust matters. Justice in this country is this belief that no matter what you are or what you have, you can find justice. Like you're not just going to be bullied and bulldozed over. You have rights. Like justice is this underlying principle of if we are a just society, we don't let people go without consequences for being done wrong or even reward for doing right. It's public trust. We have to invest in that every single day. We have to build it every day because every single day something's going to attack it. I mean, we're in a place right now where it doesn't matter what politics you are, you don't trust the government. Take the government out of it. Do we trust each other? Do we trust our neighbor? Do we trust the people that we have to go and experience this life with? To be a just society, it's just that fallback. Like we talk about people getting sued and you have the right to sue. And it's like that becomes this like easy button. But public trust is, somebody did me wrong. Why? Right? Like that's what I want. That to me is a just society. I get to live my life the way I want to. And I have trust that if anybody tries to impede that, I have an opportunity to correct it. But it also comes with this like element of grace. And so that's what I want for this country. I don't know if that fits just or not.
Yeah.
But when I think about just, it's not the same as fair. It's not fair that Jesus had to die for my sins. But that was God setting the scale straight, right? And it's like we have people in this country that are willing to sacrifice and get nothing in return. So how do we justify that? We sacrifice what we can. We live our lives giving what we can, reaching the potential that we have, being the contributing member of our community. And I love that word community because you go back before the cell phone, that's what it was. Somebody's house burned down, we're all going to come help them fix it, right? Yeah. And we didn't expect help from anywhere else, but they know they're going to get it from us. We owned our own, And like, I want that because it's not an isolation, it's an identity. Like a couple hundred years ago, it was a village, then it's a town, now it's a community. That's okay. I don't care what you call it. Like, we got to live around each other.
So as you think about your kids, we ask everybody on this podcast what the just life means. And you kind of answered a lot of it in that answer you just gave. But as you think about your kids and this next generation, you got kids, I've got kids, we're both fathers. So we care about what's happening in the next generation. For Joey Jones, as you look at your kids and you tell them the just life means what?
I think it's as simple as my dad used to say, as long as somebody owes you, you'll never go broke. It costs you $0 to do something for somebody else. If you'll go do right by people, You don't even have to expect them to do right by you, but it's going to happen. Give before you take, offer before you ask.
Awesome. This is The Just Life. I'm Benjamin Watson. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.